The worst part wasn't that someone had read her most private thoughts. The worst part was that it was the wrong person entirely, and now he was standing in her tiny apartment doorway holding the letter that was meant to change her life with his brother. Amara Johnson felt her stomach drop to her toes as Logan Reed's dark eyes moved across the handwritten pages that contained every secret feeling she'd harbored for his younger brother Tyler for the past 3 years. "I think this belongs to you," Logan said quietly, his voice carrying none of the mockery she expected. Instead, there was something gentle in his tone that made her want to disappear into the floor. "Oh God," she whispered, pressing her hands to her cheeks. "You read it? I'm sorry. I thought it was for me when I saw my last name on the envelope. I realized my mistake pretty quickly, but—" He trailed off, still holding the cream-colored paper that had taken her weeks to write and rewrite. Amara had poured her heart onto those pages. Every late-night study session with Tyler where she'd watched him laugh at her jokes. Every time he'd fallen asleep on her couch after they'd watched movies together. Every moment when she'd wanted to tell him how she felt but couldn't risk losing the best friendship she'd ever had. All of it was there in her careful handwriting, confessing feelings that were supposed to bring her and Tyler together, not expose her to his intimidating older brother. 3 hours earlier, everything had been different. Amara had been sitting at her small kitchen table, staring at the sealed envelope and gathering courage. Her apartment was quiet except for the hum of her old refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic from the street below. The letter had been sitting there for 2 weeks, written and rewritten until she'd finally found the right words to tell Tyler Reed how she really felt about him. Tyler had been her best friend since freshman year of college. They'd met in Introduction to Psychology, where she'd been struggling to keep up while working 2 part-time jobs to pay for school. He'd offered to share his notes, and somehow that small kindness had bloomed into the most important friendship of her life. They studied together, grabbed coffee between classes, and spent countless hours talking about everything and nothing. But somewhere along the way, Amara's feelings had shifted from friendship to something deeper. She'd fallen for Tyler's easy laugh, his kindness to everyone around him, and the way he never made her feel different or less than because she couldn't afford the things their other classmates took for granted. She loved how he remembered her favorite coffee order and always texted to make sure she got home safely after their late study sessions. The problem was that Tyler had never given any sign that he saw her as more than a friend. He dated other girls casually, never anything serious, but he never looked at Amara the way she looked at him. Still, their mutual friends kept insisting there was something there, some spark that everyone could see except Tyler himself. "Just tell him," her roommate Keisha had said for the 100th time the week before. What's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen, Amara had realized, was losing Tyler entirely. But staying silent was becoming impossible. Every day that passed made her feelings stronger and harder to hide. She'd started declining invitations to hang out in groups because watching Tyler laugh with other girls was too painful. She'd begun making excuses to skip their usual coffee dates because sitting across from him, pretending she only wanted friendship, was exhausting. So she'd written the letter. It had seemed like the perfect solution. She could explain everything clearly, give Tyler time to process, and avoid the awkwardness of trying to say it all in person. She'd written about their friendship, about how much he meant to her, and about how her feelings had grown into something more. She'd been careful to tell him that their friendship mattered more than anything, that if he didn't feel the same way, she would understand and they could go back to how things were. The letter was supposed to be delivered to Tyler's apartment that afternoon. She'd even looked up the building on Google Street View to make sure she had the right address. Tyler lived in a nice complex near campus, nothing too fancy but definitely nicer than her cramped studio. She'd planned to drop it off while he was in class, so he could read it privately and text her when he was ready to talk. But now Logan Reed was standing in her doorway, and everything had gone wrong in the most embarrassing way possible. Logan was Tyler's older brother by 5 years, and in the 3 years Amara had known Tyler, she'd only met Logan twice. He was successful, intimidating, and completely different from his younger brother. Where Tyler was warm and easygoing, Logan was serious and focused. Tyler was studying to be a teacher. Logan owned 3 businesses and drove a car that cost more than Amara made in a year. Tyler wore jeans and t-shirts. Logan looked like he'd stepped out of a business magazine even on casual days. The few times they'd met, Logan had been polite but distant. Amara had gotten the impression that he thought she was just another one of Tyler's college friends, someone he'd forget about after graduation. She'd never imagined that he paid enough attention to her to recognize her handwriting on an envelope. "How did you even get this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "The building manager gave it to me," Logan explained. "I was visiting Tyler and she handed me his mail. Your envelope was mixed in with everything else. I didn't look at the name carefully, I just saw read, and assumed it was business correspondence. Amara closed her eyes, trying to process this information. She'd been so careful to write Tyler's full name and apartment number on the envelope. How had it ended up with Logan instead? Tyler wasn't home, Logan continued. I was waiting for him when I opened it. I'm truly sorry, Amara. I stopped reading as soon as I realized what it was, but I'd already seen enough to understand the situation. She looked at him, then really looked at him for the first time. Logan was taller than Tyler, with darker hair and more serious features. He was wearing a navy blue button-down shirt and dark jeans, looking effortlessly put together even though this was supposedly a casual visit to his brother. His expression was kind, apologetic, nothing like the cold businessman she'd imagined him to be. What did you see? She asked, dreading the answer. Enough to know that you have feelings for my brother. Enough to know that this took courage to write. He held out the letter. This should be between you and Tyler. I won't say anything to him about it. Amara took the letter with shaking hands. The paper felt different now, somehow, knowing that Logan's eyes had moved across her words. Thank you, she managed to say. For what it's worth, Logan added quietly, Tyler would be lucky to have someone who cares about him the way you do. That letter, it's beautiful, Amara. Honest and brave and beautiful. Before she could respond, he was gone, leaving her standing in her doorway with her heart pounding and her carefully laid plans in ruins. She looked down at the letter in her hands, at the cream-colored paper that was supposed to change everything. Now she didn't know what to do with it. She closed the door and leaned against it, sliding down until she was sitting on the floor. The letter felt heavy in her hands, weighted with all the feelings she'd finally found the courage to express and all the new complications that Logan's accidental involvement had created. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. Coffee later? I have so much to tell you about my brother's surprise visit. Amara stared at the message, wondering if Tyler had any idea what had just happened. Did Logan tell him about finding someone at his apartment? Did he mention Amara at all? She typed back, rain check? Not feeling great today. It wasn't entirely a lie. Her stomach was still churning from the encounter with Logan, and she needed time to figure out what to do next. She'd spent weeks working up the courage to send that letter, and now she felt more confused than ever. The worst part, she realized as she sat on her apartment floor, wasn't just that Logan had read her private thoughts. The worst part was the way he'd looked at her when he called the letter beautiful. There had been something in his eyes, some emotion she couldn't quite identify, that made her wonder if she'd been wrong about him all along. And that was a complication she definitely wasn't ready to face. Logan Reed sat in his car outside Amara's apartment building for 10 minutes after leaving her doorway, his hands gripping the steering wheel as he tried to process what had just happened. The image of her face, shocked, embarrassed, vulnerable, was burned into his memory, along with every word of the letter he'd accidentally read. He'd come to the city to surprise Tyler with a visit, something he'd been trying to do more often since their parents had been pushing him to spend more time with family. His business was doing well enough that he could afford to take a day off, and Tyler had mentioned being stressed about finals. Logan had thought maybe they could grab dinner, catch up properly for once. The building manager, Mrs. Chen, had recognized him from previous visits and handed him Tyler's mail without thinking twice about it. Logan had been grateful. It saved him from waiting in the lobby. He'd gone up to Tyler's apartment, used the spare key their mother had insisted Tyler give him, and settled in to wait with the stack of mail. The cream-colored envelope had been on top, addressed in careful handwriting to Tyler Reed, apartment 4B. Logan had barely glanced at it before opening it, assuming it was some kind of formal correspondence. Tyler was graduating soon. Maybe it was something from the university or a potential employer. Instead, he'd found himself reading the most honest, heartfelt love letter he'd ever encountered. Dear Tyler, it had begun. I've started this letter 100 times, and I still don't know if I'm brave enough to give it to you. But I can't keep pretending that you're just my friend when you mean so much more to me than that. Logan had stopped reading there, realizing his mistake, but those opening lines were already etched in his mind. Along with the signature at the bottom, love always, Amara. Amara Johnson. Tyler's best friend, the girl Logan had met exactly twice and thought about far more often than he cared to admit. The first time he'd met her, she'd been asleep on Tyler's couch, textbooks scattered around her, wearing an oversized sweater and looking impossibly young. Tyler had explained that they'd been studying for a big exam and she dozed off. Logan had watched Tyler cover her with a blanket, being careful not to wake her, and had felt an unexpected pang of something. Protectiveness, maybe. or envy at Tyler's easy intimacy with someone who looked so peaceful and trusting. The second time, she'd been leaving Tyler's apartment as Logan arrived. She'd been flustered, juggling books and a coffee cup, apologizing for running late for work. Logan had helped her pick up her dropped papers, and their hands had brushed briefly. She'd thanked him with a smile that had stayed with him for weeks afterward. Both times, Logan had told himself that his interest was simply curiosity about his brother's friend. Tyler had mentioned her often, Amara this, Amara that. She was clearly important to him, and Logan wanted to understand the people in Tyler's life. That was normal brotherly concern, nothing more. Except Logan was honest enough with himself to admit that wasn't entirely true. There had been something about Amara that drew his attention from the very first meeting. Maybe it was the way she'd looked so at home in Tyler's space, or the way Tyler's voice changed when he talked about her, becoming softer, more careful. Or maybe it was simpler than that. She was beautiful in a way that seemed unaware of itself, and Logan found that combination of beauty and humility irresistible. Now, sitting in his car after delivering her letter back to her, Logan was forced to confront feelings he'd been pushing aside for months. Reading those few lines of her letter had felt like a punch to the chest, not because she loved Tyler, but because Logan realized he'd been hoping she might feel differently. Which was ridiculous and selfish and completely inappropriate. Tyler was his brother. Amara was Tyler's friend and apparently had been in love with him for years. Logan had no right to feel anything about that except happiness for both of them, if Tyler felt the same way. But he did feel something else. Something that made him want to go back to Amara's apartment and tell her that any man would be lucky to receive a letter like that from someone like her. Something that made him want to ask if she'd ever considered that maybe she was focusing on the wrong brother. Logan pulled out his phone and called Tyler. Logan. Hey, I was just about to text you. Are you still in town? Yeah, I'm here. Listen, I stopped by your apartment but you weren't home. I have your mail though. Oh, thanks. Mrs. Chin always mixes up our mail delivery. Anything important? Logan hesitated. There had been other letters in the stack, bills, junk mail, what looked like a graduation announcement from the university. But all he could think about was the cream-colored envelope and the girl who'd written it. Nothing urgent, he said finally. Where are you? Want to grab dinner? Actually, I was supposed to meet Amara for coffee, but she just canceled. Said she wasn't feeling well. Want to come with me to check on her? She never cancels on me, so I'm a little worried. Logan's stomach tightened. Maybe you should give her some space if she's not feeling well. Nah, she's probably just stressed about finals. I'll bring her some of that tea she likes from the place near campus. She always does the same for me when I'm sick. This was exactly what Logan had been afraid of. Tyler's natural kindness and concern for Amara would lead him straight to her apartment while she was still processing what had happened. Logan could picture the scene. Tyler showing up with tea and worry, Amara still emotional from their earlier encounter, the letter sitting somewhere nearby like an unexploded bomb. Tyler, Logan said carefully, what if she just needs some time alone? Sometimes people cancel plans because they need space, not because they need company. Since when do you give advice about reading social cues? Tyler laughed. You're the guy who schedules spontaneous visits 2 weeks in advance. It was a fair point. Logan's approach to relationships was methodical, planned, professional. He scheduled dates like business meetings and approached romance like a negotiation. It was one of the reasons his last relationship had ended. His ex-girlfriend had accused him of treating their entire relationship like a project to be managed rather than experienced. But with Amara, Logan found himself wanting to throw all of that careful planning out the window. He wanted to act on impulse, to follow his instincts, to do something that might be stupid but felt right. Just trust me on this one, Logan said. Give her tonight. You can check on her tomorrow if you're still worried. Okay, that's weird but fine. Want to grab dinner just the two of us then? There's this place near my campus that has great burgers. They made plans to meet at the restaurant, and Logan spent the drive trying to convince himself that he'd done the right thing. He was protecting both Tyler and Amara from an awkward situation. He was giving Amara time to decide how and when to approach Tyler about the letter. He was staying out of something that was none of his business. But as he pulled into the restaurant parking lot, Logan couldn't shake the feeling that he was also protecting himself. Because seeing Tyler's face when he read that letter, seeing Tyler realize that someone as wonderful as Amara had been in love with him for years, was going to be harder than Logan wanted to admit. The truth was, Logan had been half in love with Amara Johnson since the first time he'd seen her sleeping on his brother's couch. And reading her letter, seeing the depth of her feelings and the beauty of her words, had pushed him the rest of the way over the edge. Tyler was waiting for him inside the restaurant, waving from a booth near the window. As Logan walked over, he made himself a promise. He would be a good brother. He would support Tyler and Amara if they got together. He would keep his own feelings to himself and find a way to be happy for them. It was the right thing to do. The honorable thing. But as Tyler started talking about his classes and his post-graduation plans, Logan found himself wondering what would have happened if that letter had actually been meant for him. What would it feel like to be loved the way Amara loved Tyler? What would it be like to deserve that kind of honest, brave affection? He was probably never going to find out. But for the first time in his carefully planned life, Logan Reed found himself wishing he could rewrite the rules. 3 days passed before Logan saw Amara again, and when he did, it was entirely by accident. He'd been leaving the coffee shop near Tyler's campus after a quick business meeting when he spotted her through the window of the bookstore next door. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor in what looked like the poetry section, surrounded by books, looking smaller and more fragile than he remembered. Logan told himself to keep walking. He'd been doing well at staying out of the situation between Amara and Tyler, even though Tyler had mentioned twice that Amara was acting strange and avoiding his calls. This was between them. Logan had no business getting involved. But something about the way she was sitting there, completely absorbed in whatever she was reading, made him change his mind. Before he could second-guess himself, he was pushing open the bookstore door. The shop smelled like old paper and vanilla candles. It was the kind of place Logan never would have entered on his own, cramped and cluttered, with narrow aisles and books stacked everywhere. But Amara looked perfectly at home there, like she belonged among all those stories and words. She looked up when his shadow fell across her books, and Logan watched several emotions cross her face in quick succession. Surprise, embarrassment, something that might have been panic, and finally resignation. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi." Logan glanced around, then gestured to the empty space next to her. "Mind if I sit? We should probably talk." Amara nodded and moved some books aside to make room. Logan lowered himself to the floor, feeling ridiculous in his business clothes among all the college students, but not caring enough to leave. "How are you doing?" he asked. "I've been better." She closed the book she'd been reading, a collection of Pablo Neruda's poetry. Logan noticed. "I guess Tyler told you I've been weird lately. He mentioned you canceled coffee a few times. He's worried about you." Amara laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Of course he is. Tyler worries about everyone. It's one of the things She stopped herself, shaking her head. "One of the things you love about him?" She looked at him sharply. "Are you going to make this more awkward than it already is?" "I'm not trying to. I just think maybe we should acknowledge what happened instead of pretending it didn't." Logan had been thinking about this conversation for 3 days, rehearsing different approaches. He could be businesslike and efficient, treat it like a problem to be solved. He could be brotherly and supportive, encourage her to talk to Tyler. He could be distant and polite, pretend the whole thing had never happened. Instead, he found himself being honest. "I can't stop thinking about that letter, Amara." Her cheeks flushed. "Please don't." Not because it was meant for Tyler. Because of how beautiful it was. Because of how much courage it must have taken to write something that honest. "It doesn't matter now. I can't give it to him." "Why not?" Amara picked up one of the books and held it against her chest like a shield. "Because now I know what it feels like to have someone read it who wasn't supposed to. Because I keep thinking about the look on your face when you realized what it was. Because everything feels different now and I don't know how to fix it." Logan studied her face, noting the dark circles under her eyes and the way her hands shook slightly as she held the book. What kind of different? Just different. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Complicated. They sat in silence for a moment, surrounded by poetry books and the quiet sounds of other customers browsing. Logan found himself noticing details about Amara that he'd missed before. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, the small scar on her chin, the fact that she was wearing Tyler's old university sweatshirt. "Have you eaten today?" he asked suddenly. "What?" "Food. Have you eaten? You look like you haven't been taking care of yourself." Amara blinked at him. "I had a granola bar this morning, I think." Logan stood up and held out his hand. "Come on." "Where?" "To get you some real food. And to talk about this properly, somewhere that isn't the floor of a bookstore." She stared at his outstretched hand. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" "Because you're Tyler's brother. Because this is already weird enough. Because I don't know what you want from me." Logan kept his hand extended. "I want to make sure you eat something that isn't a granola bar. I want to have a conversation with you that doesn't involve both of us sitting on the floor feeling awkward. And I want to understand why you think everything has to be complicated just because I accidentally read a letter that was meant for someone else." After a long moment, Amara took his hand and let him help her to her feet. Her palm was warm against his, and Logan had to resist the urge to hold on longer than necessary. They walked to a small cafe a few blocks away, the kind of place that served soup and bread bowls and had mismatched furniture. Logan ordered food for both of them, tomato soup and grilled cheese for Amara, a sandwich for himself, and found them a table by the window. "You didn't have to do this," Amara said, stirring her soup without eating it. "I know. I wanted to." "Why?" It was a fair question, and Logan found himself struggling to answer it honestly without saying too much. "Because I think you're beating yourself up over something that doesn't need to be a big deal. Because my brother cares about you and would want someone to make sure you're okay. Because I care about you too." Amara looked up at him, then really looked at him. "You don't even know me. I know you write beautiful letters. I know you love my brother enough to be terrified of losing his friendship. I know you work 2 jobs to pay for school and still find time to help Tyler with his classes. I know you're kind and brave and completely unaware of how remarkable you are. Tyler talks about me that much?" Logan hesitated. The truth was that Tyler did talk about Amara often, but Logan had also been paying attention in ways that had nothing to do with brotherly interest. He'd noticed things about her during their brief encounters that Tyler had never mentioned. The way she bit her lip when she was thinking. The fact that she always carried too many books. The way she looked at art and poetry like they were necessities rather than luxuries. "He cares about you," Logan said finally. "Anyone can see that. But not the way I care about him." It wasn't really a question, but Logan found himself answering anyway. "I don't know. Have you asked him?" "I can't now. Not after everything that's happened." "Because I read the letter?" "Because you read the letter and now I know how it sounds out loud. Because I've been hiding in bookstores for 3 days trying to figure out what to do. Because I keep thinking about—" She stopped, shaking her head. "Thinking about what?" Amara finally took a bite of her soup, clearly buying time. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I keep thinking about the way you looked at me when you brought the letter back. Like you saw something in me that I didn't know was there." Logan's chest tightened. "What if I did? Then everything is even more complicated than I thought." They looked at each other across the small table and Logan felt something shift between them. It was subtle but unmistakable, an acknowledgement of the attraction that had been simmering under the surface since that day at her apartment. "It doesn't have to be complicated," Logan said carefully. "Your brother is my best friend. I wrote him a love letter. You read it by accident. How is that not complicated? Because feelings aren't logical. Because sometimes the heart wants what it wants, regardless of timing or circumstances. Because maybe the letter ended up with me for a reason." Amara stared at him. "What are you saying?" Logan knew he was approaching dangerous territory. He was about to cross a line that he couldn't uncross, say something that would change everything between them. But looking at Amara across the table, seeing the hope and fear warring in her expression, he found that he didn't care about the consequences. "I'm saying that maybe you wrote that letter to the wrong brother." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and risk. Amara's soup spoon clattered against her bowl as she set it down with shaking hands. "Logan, I can't. Tyler is. Tyler is my brother and I love him. But Tyler has never looked at you the way I'm looking at you right now. Tyler has never spent 3 days thinking about a letter that wasn't even meant for him. Tyler doesn't know that you read poetry in bookstores when you're upset, or that you haven't been eating properly, or that you have a scar on your chin that makes you even more beautiful." "You noticed my scar?" "I notice everything about you, Amara. I have since the first time I met you." She was quiet for a long moment, absorbing this information. Finally, she looked up at him with eyes that were bright with unshed tears. "What happens now?" she asked. Logan reached across the table and covered her hand with his. "Now we figure it out together." The next 2 weeks fell into an unexpected rhythm. Logan found reasons to stay in town longer than he'd originally planned, extending his business meetings and working remotely when possible. Amara began accepting his invitations for coffee, lunch, and long walks around campus. They were careful to meet when Tyler was in class or at work, not because they were hiding anything wrong, but because they both needed time to understand what was happening between them without outside pressure. Logan learned that Amara took her coffee with 2 sugars and no cream, that she hummed unconsciously when she was reading, and that she had strong opinions about everything from social justice to the best pizza toppings. She was studying social work with a minor in creative writing, planning to work with at-risk youth after graduation. She'd grown up in a single-parent household and understood what it meant to struggle financially, which explained her work ethic and her determination to succeed on her own terms. Amara discovered that Logan's serious exterior hid a dry sense of humor and a genuine desire to make a positive impact through his businesses. He owned a small construction company that specialized in affordable housing projects, a consulting firm that helped nonprofits with financial planning, and a bookstore cafe that served as a community gathering space in an underserved neighborhood. He wasn't just wealthy, he was purposeful about his wealth. "I always thought you were some kind of corporate shark," Amara admitted one afternoon as they walked through the campus art museum. "Tyler made it sound like you were obsessed with making money." "Tyler sees what he wants to see," Logan replied, stopping in front of a painting of a storm-tossed sea. "It's easier for him to think I'm just focused on profit than to understand that I actually care about using business to solve problems." "Why don't you correct him?" Logan shrugged. "He's never asked. And honestly, it's easier to let him think I'm the successful but soulless older brother. Less pressure on both of us." Amara studied his profile as he looked at the painting. "That sounds lonely." "It was. Until recently." He turned to look at her then, and Amara felt her heart skip in a way that was becoming familiar. Over the past 2 weeks, she'd been forced to confront the fact that her feelings for Tyler had been largely based on comfort and familiarity, while what she felt for Logan was something entirely different. It was challenging and exciting and a little frightening in its intensity. Logan made her think harder, question her assumptions, push herself beyond her comfort zone. Tyler had always been safe. Logan was anything but. Where Tyler agreed with her opinions, Logan engaged with them, sometimes pushing back in ways that led to fascinating conversations. Where Tyler was content to study together in comfortable silence, Logan asked her questions about her dreams and goals that made her articulate things she'd never said out loud. "Can I ask you something?" Amara said as they moved to the next exhibit. "Always. That first day when you brought back the letter. You said it was beautiful. Did you mean that or were you just being nice?" Logan stopped walking and turned to face her fully. "I meant it. Every word of it was honest and thoughtful and brave. Any man would be honored to receive something like that. Even if it was meant for someone else? Especially if it was meant for someone else and ended up with me instead." They were standing close enough that Amara could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive that suited him perfectly. The museum was quiet around them, other visitors giving them space as they talked in low voices. "Logan, I need to tell you something." "What?" Amara took a deep breath. "I think I was wrong about Tyler. About my feelings for him." "What do you mean?" I think I convinced myself I was in love with him because he was safe. Because loving Tyler felt like something I could control. But what I feel when I'm with you." She shook her head. "This is scary and unpredictable and I have no idea what I'm doing." Logan reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "That sounds like the beginning of something real. What if it's not? What if this is just some weird reaction to the embarrassment of the letter situation? What if we're both just caught up in the drama of it all? Then we'll figure that out too. But Amara, what I feel for you isn't about drama or embarrassment or anything else except you. The way you think, the way you see the world, the way you make me want to be a better version of myself." "You don't need to be a better version of yourself." Logan smiled. "See? That's exactly what I mean. You make me believe that maybe I'm enough just as I am." Before Amara could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. "Haven't seen you in forever. Free for dinner tonight? I miss my best friend." The message sent a jolt of guilt through Amara's chest. She'd been so caught up in getting to know Logan that she'd barely spoken to Tyler in 2 weeks. She'd been telling herself that she needed space to sort out her feelings, but the truth was that she'd been avoiding him because she didn't know how to act normal around him anymore. Logan must have seen the change in her expression. "Tyler?" She nodded, showing him the message. "You should go," Logan said quietly. "Should I?" "He's your best friend, Amara. That doesn't change just because you and I are, whatever we are." "What are we, Logan?" It was the question they'd both been avoiding for 2 weeks. They'd been spending time together, growing closer, sharing more of themselves with each other, but neither had wanted to define what was happening between them. Logan was quiet for a long moment, considering his words carefully. "I think we're two people who found each other in an unexpected way and are trying to figure out if what we feel is real. And if it is real? Then we'll deal with whatever complications come with it. Together." Amara looked down at Tyler's message again. The guilt was still there, but it was mixed with something else now: clarity. She cared about Tyler deeply, would always care about him, but she was beginning to understand that what she felt for Logan was in a completely different category. "I'll have dinner with him," she said finally. But Logan, I need you to know that whatever happens these past 2 weeks, they've meant something to me. You mean something to me? You mean something to me too. They stood there in the quiet museum, surrounded by art and possibility, both understanding that they were at a turning point. Whatever happened next with Tyler, with their families, with their own relationship, there was no going back to pretending they were just casual acquaintances. Can I see you tomorrow? Logan asked. Yes. But maybe we should tell Tyler about us soon. I don't like keeping secrets from him. Us. Amara blushed but didn't back down. Whatever we are, we're something. And Tyler deserves to know. Logan nodded. You're right. But let's give you a chance to talk to him first. See how he's doing, where his head is at. And then we figure out how to be honest with him without losing him. That evening, Amara met Tyler at their usual spot, a small Italian restaurant near campus that served huge portions at student-friendly prices. Tyler was already there when she arrived, looking exactly the same as always, messy hair, easy smile. Completely comfortable in his own skin. There she is, he said, standing to hug her. I was starting to think you'd transferred schools or something. Sorry, Amara said, settling into the booth across from him. I've been dealing with some stuff. What kind of stuff? You know you can talk to me about anything, right? The sincerity in his voice made Amara's chest tighten with affection and guilt. Tyler really was a good friend. Maybe the best friend she'd ever had. The thought of losing him because of her feelings for Logan was terrifying. I know, she said. It's complicated. Try me. Amara looked at Tyler's open, trusting face and realized she had to start somewhere. Maybe she couldn't tell him everything tonight, but she could begin the process of being honest. Do you remember a few weeks ago when I was acting weird? Canceling plans and stuff? Yeah, you said you weren't feeling well. I wasn't exactly lying, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Amara took a deep breath. I was dealing with some feelings I'd been having. About someone. Tyler's expression immediately became more alert. Someone? Like a guy, someone? Yeah. Who is he? Do I know him? This was the moment Amara had been dreading. She couldn't tell Tyler about Logan, not yet, but she also couldn't lie to his face anymore. It's complicated, she said again. But Tyler, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Do you ever think about us as more than friends? Tyler blinked, clearly surprised by the question. What do you mean? I mean, have you ever wondered what it would be like if we dated? If we were more than just friends? Tyler was quiet for a long moment, and Amara found herself holding her breath. Part of her was terrified that he'd say yes, that he'd confess feelings that would make everything even more complicated. But a bigger part of her was hoping he'd say no, confirming what she'd begun to suspect about the nature of her own feelings. Honestly? Tyler said finally. No. I mean, you're amazing, Amara. You're smart and funny and beautiful, and any guy would be lucky to be with you. But I've never thought about you that way. Why not? Tyler shrugged. I don't know. You're my person, you know? My best friend. The idea of changing that, of risking what we have for something that might not work out, it's never appealed to me. Amara felt a wave of relief so strong it surprised her. So if I told you I had feelings for someone else, someone who wasn't you, that would be okay? Of course it would be okay. Amara, I want you to be happy. I want you to find someone who sees how incredible you are and treats you like the amazing woman you are. Even if it was someone you knew? Tyler gave her a curious look. What's going on, Amara? Who is this guy? I can't tell you yet. But Tyler, I need you to know that our friendship means everything to me. Whatever happens with this person, whatever feelings I have for him, you'll always be important to me. Now you're scaring me. Are you moving away? Is he married? Is this some kind of forbidden love situation? Despite everything, Amara laughed. It's not that dramatic. I promise. I just need some time to figure things out before I can talk about it. Tyler reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Okay. But promise me that when you're ready to talk, you'll come to me first. I want to meet this guy who's got my best friend all twisted up. I promise. They spent the rest of dinner talking about safer topics. Tyler's upcoming graduation, his job prospects, Amara's final exams. But underneath the normal conversation, Amara was processing Tyler's words. He'd never seen her romantically. He wanted her to be happy with someone else. He would support her relationship with whoever made her feel loved and valued. All of which meant that the biggest obstacle to being with Logan might not be Tyler at all. It might be her own fear of taking a risk on something real and potentially wonderful. After dinner, Tyler walked her back to her apartment, chatting easily about his classes and his plans for the summer. When they reached her building, he hugged her goodbye. "I'm glad we talked tonight," he said. "I was worried I'd done something to upset you." "You could never upset me, Tyler. You're the best friend I've ever had." "You too, Amara. And hey, whoever this mystery guy is, he better treat you right or he'll have to answer to me." As Tyler walked away, Amara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She pulled out her phone and texted Logan, "Can you come over? We need to talk." He responded immediately, "On my way." 20 minutes later, Logan was knocking on her door. When she opened it, he looked worried. "Is everything okay? How did dinner go?" "It went well," Amara said, stepping aside to let him in. "Really well, actually." She told him about her conversation with Tyler, about his admission that he'd never seen her romantically, about his support for her happiness with someone else. "So the question is," she said when she'd finished, "what do we do now?" Logan sat down on her couch and pulled her down next to him. "Now we stop pretending this is casual. Now we admit that what's happening between us is real and worth exploring." "And Tyler?" "We tell him the truth. But first, I want to know something." "What?" Logan turned to face her fully, his expression serious. "Are you ready for this, Amara? Are you ready to take a chance on something that might be incredible but also might change everything?" Amara looked at him, really looked at him. At the way his eyes crinkled slightly when he was being serious. At the strong line of his jaw and the gentle way he was holding her hand. At the man who had somehow become the most important person in her world in just 2 weeks. "I'm terrified," she said honestly. "But yes, I'm ready." Logan smiled then, the first completely unguarded smile she'd seen from him. "Good. Because I'm falling in love with you, Amara Johnson, and I don't want to fight it anymore." "You're falling in love with me?" "I'm already there actually. Have been since the day I read that letter and realized what an incredible woman my brother's best friend really is." Amara felt tears prick her eyes. "I love you too, Logan. I think I have for a while now, but I was too scared to admit it." He cupped her face in his hands, thumbs brushing away the tears that had started to fall. "No more being scared. No more pretending this is something it's not. What happens now?" "Now," Logan said, leaning closer, "I kiss you. And then we figure out the rest as we go." When his lips met hers, Amara felt like she was finally coming home. This kiss was nothing like the sweet, safe affection she'd imagined sharing with Tyler. This was passionate and real and full of promise for a future she'd never dared to dream of. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Logan rested his forehead against hers. "We're really doing this," he said. "We're really doing this," Amara agreed. And for the first time in weeks she felt like everything was exactly as it should be. The next morning brought reality crashing back in the form of a text from Tyler. "Logan's staying in town longer than expected. Want to have a family dinner tomorrow night? You should come, Mom's been asking about you." Amara stared at the message, her coffee growing cold in her hands. She was sitting in Logan's kitchen, wearing one of his t-shirts, trying to process the fact that everything had changed between them in the span of a single evening. They'd stayed up until 3 in the morning talking, kissing, planning how they were going to navigate this new relationship. Now Tyler's text was reminding her that they still had to face the real world. "Everything okay?" Logan asked, coming up behind her to read the message over her shoulder. "Family dinner. Tomorrow night. With your parents." Logan winced. "That's not ideal timing." "You think?" They'd agreed the night before that they needed to tell Tyler about their relationship soon, but they'd imagined having more time to figure out how to approach it. A family dinner where Amara would be introduced as Tyler's best friend while secretly being involved with Logan felt like a recipe for disaster. "We could tell him before the dinner," Logan suggested. "That way it's not a surprise when we act like more than acquaintances. Or we could pretend nothing's changed until after the dinner. Keep things simple for one night." Logan turned her chair around so she was facing him. "Is that what you want? To pretend?" Amara looked up at him, taking in his rumpled hair and serious expression. Even first thing in the morning, he was the most attractive man she'd ever seen. But more than that, he was kind and thoughtful and made her feel like the most important person in the world when he looked at her. "No," she said finally. "I don't want to pretend. I just don't want to hurt Tyler or make things weird with your family. My parents will love you regardless of which son you're with. And Tyler wants you to be happy. You said so yourself." "I know. But there's a difference between supporting me in the abstract and finding out I'm dating his brother. Especially when I've been his best friend for 3 years and never mentioned having feelings for you." Logan knelt down next to her chair. "What are you really worried about, Amara? It was a good question, and one that forced her to examine her own fears more closely. What was she worried about? That Tyler would feel betrayed? That Logan's parents would think she was using their family? That this whole thing was moving too fast and would crash and burn spectacularly? I'm worried that I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I've never been in a real relationship before. I've never felt this way about anyone. What if I mess it up? You won't mess it up. How do you know? Logan reached up and cupped her face gently. Because I've never felt this way about anyone either. Because we're both scared, which means we both care enough to be careful with each other. Because love isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest and choosing each other every day. Love. I told you last night that I love you. Did you think I was just caught up in the moment? Amara shook her head. No, I keep waiting for this to feel real. What would make it feel real? She thought about it for a moment. Meeting your parents as your girlfriend instead of Tyler's friend. Having Tyler know about us and be okay with it. Being able to hold your hand in public without worrying about who might see us. Then let's make that happen. Let's tell Tyler today. The idea of it made Amara's stomach flip with anxiety, but she knew Logan was right. They couldn't keep sneaking around indefinitely, and the longer they waited, the harder it would be to explain why they'd kept their relationship secret. Okay, she said. But not over text. He deserves to hear it in person. Agreed. I'll call him and see if he wants to grab lunch. Both of us. Together. As a couple. Logan's phone rang before he could call Tyler. When he saw his brother's name on the screen, he and Amara exchanged a look. Tyler? What's up? Even from across the kitchen, Amara could hear Tyler's excited voice on the other end of the line. Logan, you'll never guess what happened. I met someone. Like really met someone. I think I'm in love. Logan's eyes widened. What? I know it's crazy. But I was at the library last night after dinner with Amara, and there was this girl struggling with the copy machine. I helped her out and we ended up talking for 3 hours. Her name is Sarah, and she's getting her master's in education, and Logan, she's incredible. Amara watched Logan's face as he processed this information. She could see him trying to figure out how this changed their situation, if it made things easier or more complicated. That's great, Tyler. Tell me about her. She's smart and funny, and she has this laugh that just lights up the whole room. We have so much in common. We both want to work with kids, we both love hiking, we both think pineapple on pizza should be illegal. Sounds like you two really connected. We did. And the weird thing is, I was just thinking yesterday about how I've never really been in love before. Like, I've dated people, but I've never felt that spark, you know? I was starting to think maybe I was broken or something. But with Sarah, it's like everything finally makes sense. Logan looked at Amara, and she could see the same thought in his eyes that was running through her mind. Tyler had never been in love before. He'd never felt a spark with anyone he'd dated. Which meant that whatever Amara had interpreted as potential romantic feelings from him had never existed in the first place. I'm really happy for you, Tyler, Logan said, and Amara could hear the genuine warmth in his voice. When do I get to meet her? Actually, that's why I'm calling. Would it be okay if I brought her to family dinner tomorrow night instead of Amara? I know Mom was looking forward to seeing Amara, but I really want Sarah to meet everyone, and I thought maybe Amara wouldn't mind. Logan looked at Amara, eyebrows raised in question. She nodded quickly. I think that would be fine, Logan said. I'm sure Amara will understand. You're the best. Oh, and Logan? Thanks for the advice about being patient with relationships. You were right that when you meet the right person you just know. After Tyler hung up, Logan and Amara sat in silence for a moment, processing what they just heard. Well, Amara said finally, that changes things. Tyler's in love with someone else. Tyler's never been in love with anyone before. Including me. Logan pulled out a chair and sat down across from her. How do you feel about that? Amara considered the question honestly. She felt relieved certainly. But also a little embarrassed that she'd spent so much time convinced that Tyler might return her feelings when he'd apparently never experienced romantic love at all until now. I feel like an idiot, she admitted. All this time I thought there might be something between us and he was just being a good friend. You're not an idiot. You're human. Sometimes we see what we want to see or what we're afraid might be there. I wasted so much time thinking about him when I could have been. When you could have been what? When I could have been noticing you. Logan smiled. You're noticing me now. That's what matters. So what do we do about dinner tomorrow? We go together. As a couple. We meet Sarah, we support Tyler, and we let our relationship be public for the first time. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. After weeks of stolen moments and careful secrecy, the thought of being open about their feelings was almost overwhelming. What if your parents don't approve? Amara asked. What if they love you just as much as Tyler and I do? Tyler doesn't love me. Not romantically anyway. No, but he loves you as a friend. And my parents will see what I see, that you're kind and smart and perfect for their son. Which son? Logan grinned. The right one. That afternoon they met Tyler at a coffee shop near campus. He was practically glowing with happiness, and Amara found herself genuinely excited to hear about this new relationship that had him so animated. Tell us everything, she said after they'd gotten their drinks and found a table. Tyler launched into a detailed account of his evening with Sarah, describing everything from her research focus to her favorite books to the way she made him feel like he could conquer the world. Amara listened with growing amazement, realizing that she'd never seen Tyler talk about anyone with this kind of enthusiasm and depth of feeling. She sounds wonderful, Amara said when he paused for breath. She is. And the crazy thing is, I think she likes me too. We're going out again tonight. 2 nights in a row? Logan teased. This must be serious. It is. I know it's fast, but I can't help it. I've never felt anything like this before. Tyler looked so happy that Amara felt her last remaining doubts about her own relationship with Logan disappear. This was what real love looked like, consuming and joyful and completely transformative. It was what she felt when she looked at Logan, and it was clearly what Tyler felt when he talked about Sarah. Tyler, Logan said carefully, there's something Amara and I wanted to talk to you about. What's up? Logan reached over and took Amara's hand, intertwining their fingers on top of the table. Tyler's eyes immediately focused on their joined hands, and Amara watched several emotions cross his face: surprise, confusion, and then something that looked like understanding. We're together, Logan said simply. We've been seeing each other for a few weeks now and we wanted you to know. Tyler looked back and forth between them, processing this information. Amara held her breath, waiting for his reaction. Together? Tyler asked finally. Together, Amara confirmed. Tyler was quiet for a long moment, and Amara began to worry that they'd made a mistake. Maybe he was hurt that they'd kept it secret. Maybe he was uncomfortable with the idea of his brother dating his best friend. Maybe. Well, it's about time, Tyler said, breaking into a grin. What? Amara blinked at him. I said it's about time. Do you know how many times over the past few weeks I've watched you two make googly eyes at each other without realizing it? I was starting to think I was going to have to lock you in a room together. You knew? Logan asked. I suspected. Amara's been acting weird for weeks, and you've been finding excuses to stay in town longer than necessary. Plus, every time I mention one of you to the other, you both got this look on your faces. What kind of look? Amara asked. The same look I probably get when I talk about Sarah. Like you're trying not to smile too big but can't help yourself. Amara felt a wave of relief so strong it made her dizzy. You're really okay with this? Are you kidding? My best friend and my brother? This is perfect. Now I don't have to worry about either of you being alone forever. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Logan said dryly. You know what I mean. You've both been too picky for your own good. But you're perfect for each other. How do you figure? Amara asked. Tyler leaned back in his chair, looking pleased with himself. Logan, you need someone who challenges you and doesn't let you get away with being all serious and businesslike all the time. Amara, you need someone who sees how amazing you are and isn't intimidated by your ambition. Plus, you both overthink everything, so you'll balance each other out. We do not overthink everything, Logan protested. Says the man who makes pros and cons lists for vacation destinations. That's just good planning. Tyler turned to Amara. And you wrote 17 different versions of your resume before applying for your internship. I wanted it to be perfect. See? Perfect for each other. Despite their protests, Amara had to admit that Tyler had a point. She and Logan did approach life similarly, with careful consideration and high standards. But they also brought out different sides of each other. Logan made her more adventurous while she made him more spontaneous. So you're really okay with this? Logan asked. It's not weird that I'm dating your best friend? It's not weird that my best friend is dating my brother. Actually, it's kind of great. Now I know she's with someone who'll treat her right. Tyler's easy acceptance of their relationship was more than Amara had dared to hope for. She'd been so worried about losing his friendship or creating awkwardness in the family, but Tyler seemed genuinely happy for them. There's one more thing, Logan said. We'd like to come to family dinner tomorrow night. Together. As a couple. Perfect timing, Tyler said. You can help me explain to Mom and Dad why I'm bringing Sarah instead of Amara. They won't mind the change in plans? Are you kidding? Mom's been trying to set Logan up with someone for years. She's going to be thrilled that he found someone on his own, especially someone she already knows and likes. As they walked back to their cars, Amara felt lighter than she had in weeks. The conversation she'd been dreading had turned out to be one of the easiest talks she'd ever had. Tyler was happy for them, supportive of their relationship, and completely unbothered by the change in dynamics. That went well, Logan said, echoing her thoughts. Better than well. I can't believe he saw this coming. Tyler's more observant than he gets credit for. He just doesn't usually pay attention to things that don't directly affect him. And we directly affected him? Logan stopped walking and turned to face her. We affect everyone around us, Amara. That's what happens when two people fall in love. It changes everything for them and for everyone who cares about them. Is that what we are? In love? I think we're past the point of pretending otherwise, don't you? Amara stood on her toes and kissed him, right there in the middle of the sidewalk where anyone could see. It was the first time she'd kissed him in public, and it felt like a declaration of intent. I love you, Logan Reed, she said when they broke apart. I love you too, Amara Johnson. And tomorrow night, I get to introduce you to my parents as my girlfriend. Are you nervous? Terrified. But in a good way. Me too. As they walked hand in hand back to Logan's car, Amara reflected on how much her life had changed in just a few weeks. She'd started with a letter meant for one brother and ended up with the love of the other. She'd been terrified of losing Tyler's friendship and instead gained his enthusiastic support. She'd thought she knew what love was supposed to feel like and discovered that real love was so much bigger and more complicated and more wonderful than she'd ever imagined. Tomorrow night, she'd meet Logan's parents as his girlfriend. Next week, she'd graduate from college and start her adult life with someone who loved and supported her dreams. And someday maybe she'd look back on that mistaken letter delivery as the best accident that ever happened to her. But for now, she was content to walk down the street holding Logan's hand, no longer hiding their relationship from the world. The Reed family home was exactly what Amara had expected, elegant but warm, filled with family photos and comfortable furniture that invited you to stay a while. Logan's mother, Patricia, welcomed her with a hug that felt genuinely affectionate, while his father, Robert, shook her hand and complimented her on her upcoming graduation. We're so glad you could join us, Patricia said, leading them into the living room. Tyler's told us so much about you over the years. All good things, I hope, Amara replied, settling onto the couch next to Logan. The best things. He's always spoken of you like family. Amara felt Logan's hand find hers, a subtle gesture of support that didn't go unnoticed by his mother. Patricia's eyes flicked down to their joined hands, and Amara saw a small smile cross her face. Mom, Dad, Logan said, there's something we wanted to tell you. Before he could continue, the front door opened and Tyler's voice called out, We're here. Tyler appeared in the doorway with a petite blonde woman who looked nervous but excited. She had kind eyes and a warm smile that immediately put Amara at ease. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Sarah Williams, Tyler said, his pride evident in his voice. Sarah, these are my parents, Patricia and Robert, my brother Logan, and my best friend Amara. Sarah greeted everyone politely, and Amara could see immediately why Tyler was so taken with her. She was genuinely interested in getting to know his family, asked thoughtful questions, and had a way of making everyone feel comfortable despite being the newcomer in the group. Dinner was a lively affair, with conversation flowing easily between the six of them. Sarah fit seamlessly into the family dynamic, laughing at Robert's dad jokes and helping Patricia clear the table despite being told she was a guest. Amara found herself genuinely liking Tyler's new girlfriend and feeling happy that he'd found someone who brought out the best in him. It wasn't until they were having dessert that Logan brought up their relationship again. Mom, Dad, I have some news, he said, reaching for Amara's hand again. Amara and I are dating. The silence that followed lasted only a few seconds, but it felt much longer to Amara. She watched Logan's parents process this information, their eyes moving between their son and the woman they'd known as Tyler's friend. Patricia was the first to speak. How wonderful. I have to admit, I wondered if there might be something there when I saw you two together earlier. You did? Logan asked. A mother knows these things. You look at her differently than you've looked at any other woman you've brought home. This is the first woman I've brought home, Logan pointed out. Exactly my point. Robert raised his wine glass. To new relationships and new additions to the family. The toast was echoed around the table, and Amara felt the last of her anxiety fade away. Logan's parents were genuinely happy for them, and Tyler was beaming like he'd personally orchestrated their romance. After dinner, the family moved to the living room for coffee and more conversation. Amara found herself sitting between Logan and Patricia, listening to stories about the brothers' childhood while Logan's hand rested on her knee in a gesture that was becoming natural. "I have to ask," Patricia said during a lull in conversation, "how did this happen? Tyler's told us you two barely knew each other." Amara and Logan exchanged a look. They discussed this question on the drive over, trying to figure out how much of the story to share. "We ran into each other a few weeks ago," Logan said carefully. "Started talking, realized we had more in common than we'd thought. It was one of those unexpected things," Amara added. "Sometimes you meet someone at exactly the right moment." It wasn't the whole truth, but it wasn't a lie either. They had met at exactly the right moment. When Amara was ready to stop settling for safe feelings and Logan was ready to take a chance on something real. "Well, I think it's wonderful," Patricia said. "You complement each other nicely." "How so?" Logan asked. "You're both serious about your goals, but you bring out each other's softer sides. Logan, you're more relaxed when you're with Amara than I've ever seen you. And Amara, you seem more confident, like you're not afraid to take up space." The observation was more perceptive than Amara had expected, and she realized that Logan's mother had been watching them carefully throughout the evening, assessing their relationship with the sharp eye of someone who wanted to protect her son. "I'm curious about something," Robert said, addressing Amara directly. "What are your plans after graduation? Logan mentioned you're in social work." "I am. I've accepted a position with the city's youth services department. I'll be working with teenagers who are aging out of the foster care system, helping them transition to independent living." "That sounds challenging but rewarding." "It is. A lot of these kids don't have family support, so they're trying to navigate everything alone. I want to help them build the skills and connections they need to succeed." Logan squeezed her knee gently, and when she looked at him, she saw pride in his eyes. He'd been incredibly supportive of her career goals, never once suggesting that she should consider something easier or more financially stable. "Logan's been helping me prepare for the job," Amara continued. "He's connected me with some of his business contacts who work in nonprofit management, and he's been teaching me about financial planning so I can better help my clients." "That's my son," Patricia said with a smile. "Always finding ways to help people succeed." The evening continued with more conversation, more stories, and more evidence that Amara was being welcomed into the family with open arms. By the time they said goodbye, she felt like she'd gained not just a boyfriend, but a whole new support system. "They love you," Logan said as they drove back to his apartment. "They're wonderful. I can see where you and Tyler get your kindness from. My mom was right, you know. You do seem more confident. More sure of yourself." Amara considered this. "I think it's because I'm not pretending anymore. For so long I was trying to be the perfect friend to Tyler, never letting him see that I wanted more. With you I can just be myself. Even the parts of yourself that are messy or complicated? Especially those parts. You make me feel like all of me is acceptable." Logan pulled into his parking spot and turned to face her. "All of you is more than acceptable, Amara. All of you is incredible." They went upstairs to his apartment, both feeling like they'd passed some important test. Meeting Logan's parents as his girlfriend had felt like making their relationship official in a way that even their conversation with Tyler hadn't accomplished. "Can I ask you something?" Amara said as they settled onto Logan's couch. "Always. When you first read my letter, what did you think? Really think, not just what you told me to make me feel better?" Logan was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. "I thought it was the most beautiful expression of love I'd ever read. I thought Tyler was the luckiest man alive to have someone feel that way about him. And I thought I would give anything to have someone love me with that kind of honesty and depth. And now I know what it feels like to be loved that way. And I know that I want to spend the rest of my life making sure you never doubt how much you mean to me." Amara felt tears prick her eyes. "The rest of your life? I know it's early to be talking about forever, but Amara, I can't imagine my life without you in it now. You've changed everything for me. You've changed everything for me too." They held each other on the couch, both understanding that they'd crossed another threshold in their relationship. They were talking about forever now, making plans that extended beyond the next few weeks or months. "Logan," Amara said after a while. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if that letter had actually been delivered to Tyler? If he'd read it instead of you?" Logan was quiet for so long that Amara wondered if he'd fallen asleep. When he finally spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "I think Tyler would have been kind but honest about not returning your feelings. I think you would have been hurt but would have remained friends. And I think we would have continued to orbit around each other at family gatherings and casual encounters, never knowing what we could have been. Do you think we would have found each other eventually? I don't know. Maybe. But I'm grateful we don't have to find out. Amara snuggled closer to Logan, thinking about the strange twists of fate that had brought them together. A misdelivered letter, a case of mistaken identity, and a love that neither of them had seen coming. I'm grateful too, she said. For all of it. Even the embarrassing parts. Especially the embarrassing parts. They make the best stories. As they settled in for the night, both of them felt the contentment that comes from being exactly where you're supposed to be, with exactly the right person. The complications and fears that had seemed so overwhelming just weeks before had resolved themselves into something beautiful and right. But neither of them knew that the real test of their relationship was still to come. 2 months later, Amara was settled into her new job and loving every challenging, exhausting minute of it. She worked with 12 teenagers who were transitioning out of foster care, helping them navigate everything from apartment hunting to job interviews to opening their first bank accounts. It was exactly the kind of work she'd dreamed of doing, and Logan's business connections had proven invaluable in finding resources and opportunities for her clients. Logan had also been busier than usual, working on a new affordable housing project that required him to travel frequently. They'd been together officially for 3 months now, and their relationship had settled into a comfortable rhythm of shared dinners, lazy Sunday mornings, and long conversations about their work and dreams. Tyler and Sarah were still going strong, with Tyler already talking about moving in together after graduation. The four of them had become a natural group, often double dating or spending weekends together. Amara had grown to love Sarah like a sister, and she could see that Tyler was happier than she'd ever seen him. Everything seemed perfect, which was why Amara was completely unprepared for the conversation that changed everything. She was having lunch with Tyler on a Friday afternoon, catching up on each other's weeks, when he brought up something that made her stomach drop. I found something weird in my apartment yesterday, Tyler said, picking at his sandwich. Remember that letter you wrote me? The one you mentioned a few months ago but never gave me? Amara's fork froze halfway to her mouth. What about it? I found it. It was under my couch, like it had been slipped under the door and somehow got kicked under there. The blood drained from Amara's face. She'd kept the original letter, the one Logan had returned to her, in her desk drawer at home. But she'd made a copy before writing the final version, and she'd completely forgotten about it. That copy must have somehow ended up at Tyler's apartment, possibly dropped during one of their study sessions months ago. You read it? She managed to ask. Yeah, I read it. Amara, why didn't you tell me you had feelings for me? And why didn't you ever give it to me? Amara set down her fork, her appetite completely gone. This was a conversation she'd never imagined having, not after everything that had happened with Logan. Tyler was supposed to remain blissfully unaware of her old feelings, allowing their friendship to continue unchanged. Tyler, that letter? It's from a long time ago. Before you met Sarah. Before everything changed. But you wrote that you'd been in love with me for 3 years. 3 years, Amara. That's basically our entire friendship. I thought I was in love with you, she corrected. But I was wrong. Tyler looked confused and hurt. How can you be wrong about being in love with someone? Amara took a deep breath, trying to figure out how to explain without revealing too much about her relationship with Logan. Sometimes we convince ourselves we feel something because it seems safe or familiar. I cared about you so much as a friend that I thought it must be romantic love. But when I really examined my feelings, I realized it wasn't the same thing. When did you realize this? Around the time you met Sarah. Seeing you fall in love for Real made me understand the difference. Tyler was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. I feel like such an idiot. All this time you were dealing with these feelings and I had no idea. That's because I didn't want you to know. I was terrified of ruining our friendship. You could never ruin our friendship, Amara. But I feel awful that you were suffering in silence. I wasn't suffering. And Tyler, look at how everything worked out. You found Sarah, who's perfect for you. And I found. She trailed off, realizing she was about to mention Logan. But Tyler had already noticed her hesitation. You found someone else, he said. Logan. It wasn't a question, and Amara could see in Tyler's eyes that he was putting pieces together in a way that made her nervous. Yes, I found Logan. When exactly did you and Logan get together, Amara? The question was asked quietly, but there was something in Tyler's tone that made Amara's heart start racing. What do you mean? I mean, when did you first realize you had feelings for him? Because from what I remember, you barely knew each other a few months ago. Amara felt trapped. She couldn't lie to Tyler directly, but she also couldn't tell him the truth about how she and Logan had really gotten together. The story about running into each other and discovering they had things in common was starting to feel flimsy under Tyler's questioning. Feelings don't always follow a logical timeline, she said carefully. That's not an answer. Tyler was looking at her with an expression she'd never seen before, suspicious and hurt and increasingly angry. Amara realized that Tyler wasn't just processing the letter. He was questioning everything about her relationship with Logan. Tyler, what are you really asking me? I'm asking if you and Logan were seeing each other while you were supposedly in love with me. I'm asking if my best friend and my brother have been lying to me about how your relationship started. The accusation hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Amara felt her careful world beginning to crumble around her. It's not like that, she said. Then what is it like? Because right now it looks like you wrote me a love letter and somehow ended up with my brother instead. And the timing of all of this is very convenient. Tyler, you're not being fair. Fair? You've been my best friend for 3 years and apparently you've been in love with me for most of that time, but now you're dating my brother and claiming you were never really in love with me at all. How is any of this fair? Amara felt tears starting to form in her eyes. This was exactly the scenario she'd been afraid of, Tyler feeling betrayed and deceived, their friendship damaged beyond repair. I never meant for things to get complicated, she said. But they are complicated, aren't they? Because you're not telling me the truth about something. Before Amara could respond, her phone rang. Logan's name appeared on the screen, and she hesitated before answering. Logan? Is everything okay? Hey, I just got back from my trip early. Want to grab dinner tonight? I missed you. Amara looked at Tyler's face and saw him watching her reaction to Logan's voice. Actually, can I call you back? I'm having lunch with Tyler and we're in the middle of something. Of course. Everything all right? I'll explain later. After she hung up, Tyler shook his head. Even the way you talk to him. I've never heard you sound like that with anyone. Like what? Like you're completely in love with him. Like he's the most important person in your world. The truth of Tyler's observation hit Amara like a punch to the chest. He was right, she did sound different when she talked to Logan. She felt different when she was with Logan. Logan had become the most important person in her world, and it had happened so naturally that she hadn't even noticed the change. Tyler, I need you to understand something. What I feel for Logan is real. It's not a rebound or a consolation prize or some weird way of staying close to you. I love him. But you loved me first. No, I thought I loved you first. There's a difference. Tyler stood up abruptly, throwing his napkin down on the table. I need some air. This is too much. Tyler, please don't leave. Let's talk about this. Talk about what? About how my best friend has been lying to me for months. About how my brother somehow swooped in and stole the girl who was supposedly in love with me. Logan didn't steal anything. And I haven't been lying to you. Haven't you? You've been pretending everything was normal between us while secretly dating my brother. You've been letting me think you'd moved on from your feelings when really you just transferred them to someone else. The hurt in Tyler's voice was devastating. Amara could see that he felt betrayed not just by her secrets, but by the way his perception of their entire friendship was being rewritten. Tyler, please sit down. Let me explain everything. I don't think I want to hear any more explanations right now. Tyler walked away, leaving Amara sitting alone at their table with tears streaming down her face. She'd known this moment might come eventually, but she'd hoped they'd have more time to figure out how to handle it. She'd hoped Tyler would be so happy with Sarah that he wouldn't care about the details of how she and Logan had gotten together. Instead, she'd just lost her best friend and she had no idea how to fix it. She called Logan back immediately. Amara? What happened? You sound upset. Tyler found the letter. The original letter I wrote him. He read it and now he's asking questions about us and I think I just ruined everything. Where are you? The cafe near campus. Tyler just left. Logan, he thinks we've been lying to him and maybe we have been. Stay there. I'm coming to get you. 20 minutes later, Logan found Amara still sitting at the same table, looking devastated. He slid into the seat across from her and immediately reached for her hands. Tell me everything, he said. Amara recounted the entire conversation, from Tyler finding the letter to his accusations about their relationship timeline to his angry departure. Logan listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious as she talked. He's not entirely wrong, Logan said when she finished. What do you mean? We have been keeping secrets from him. We haven't been completely honest about how we got together. And from his perspective, It probably does look like I took advantage of a situation involving his best friend. But that's not what happened. Isn't it though? I read a letter meant for him, fell for the woman who wrote it, and pursued her while she was vulnerable and confused. Tyler doesn't know that your feelings changed organically, or that you realized you'd never really been in love with him. All he knows is that you wrote him a love letter and ended up with me instead. Amara felt a fresh wave of tears threatening. So what do? We tell him the truth. All of it. How I accidentally got the letter, how we started spending time together, how your feelings evolved. We stop trying to protect him from the details and trust him to handle the reality. What if he can't forgive us? Logan squeezed her hands. Then we deal with that too. But Amara, Tyler loves both of us. He wants us to be happy. Once he understands how everything really happened, I think he'll come around. And if he doesn't? Then we figure out how to live with the consequences of choosing each other. Because that's what we did, whether we meant to or not. We chose each other, and sometimes that choice comes with a price. Logan's words were both comforting and terrifying. Amara loved him more than she'd ever loved anyone, but the thought of losing Tyler's friendship over their relationship was devastating. I should call him, she said. Give him some time to cool off first. Let me talk to him tonight, brother to brother. Then we can all sit down together and have an honest conversation. What are you going to tell him? The truth. That I fell in love with his best friend and she fell in love with me, and that neither of us planned for it to happen, but we're not sorry that it did. As they left the cafe together, Amara leaned into Logan's strength and tried to believe that everything would work out. But she couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest part of their relationship was just beginning. Logan found Tyler at the campus gym that evening, working out his frustration on the punching bag with more force than technique. Tyler had always turned to physical activity when he needed to process difficult emotions, and Logan could see the tension in every line of his brother's body. Can we talk? Logan asked, approaching carefully. Tyler landed one more solid punch before turning around, his face flushed with exertion and anger. I wondered when you'd show up. Tyler, I know you're upset. Upset? I'm past upset, Logan. I'm trying to figure out if my brother and my best friend have been playing me for a fool. Logan gestured toward the bench area. Will you sit with me? There are things you need to know. Tyler reluctantly followed him away from the punching bag. The gym was mostly empty, giving them privacy for what Logan knew would be a difficult conversation. Before you say anything, Tyler said, I want you to know that I'm not angry because I had feelings for Amara. I didn't. I never have. I know. Do you? Because the way you two have been sneaking around suggests you thought I'd be devastated or something. Logan ran a hand through his hair. We weren't sneaking around because we thought you'd be heartbroken. We were trying to protect you from feeling like we'd gone behind your back. But you did go behind my back. Not intentionally. Tyler, the way Amara and I got together, it's not what you think. Then tell me what it really was. Logan took a deep breath and began the story from the beginning. He told Tyler about the misdelivered letter, about reading it by accident, about going to return it to Amara and finding himself drawn to her in a way he'd never expected. He explained how they'd started spending time together, how their feelings had developed naturally, and how Amara had come to realize that what she'd felt for Tyler had been friendship disguised as romance. Tyler listened without interrupting, his expression shifting from anger to surprise to something that looked almost like relief. So you read the letter first, Tyler said when Logan finished. Before I ever had a chance to see it. I read enough to know what it was before I realized my mistake. And Tyler, I need you to know that the moment I realized what was happening between Amara and me, I felt guilty as hell about it. Why? Because you're my brother. Because she was your friend first. Because it felt like I was taking something that should have been yours. Tyler was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. But it was never mine, Logan. I never wanted it to be mine. I know that now. But at the time, all I knew was that this incredible woman had written a beautiful love letter to my little brother, and I was falling for her while she was vulnerable and confused. Is that how you see it? That you took advantage of her? Logan considered the question honestly. Sometimes. In my worst moments, I wonder if she would have chosen me if she hadn't been embarrassed about the letter situation. If maybe I caught her at a moment when she was questioning everything and convinced her that what she felt for you wasn't real. That's giving yourself way too much credit, Tyler said. You've met Amara. Do you really think anyone could convince her of something she didn't believe? She's the most stubborn person I know. Despite everything, Logan smiled. True. Logan, can I ask you something? When you first met Amara, that day she was sleeping on my couch, what did you think? Logan remembered that day clearly, Amara curled up in an oversized sweater, books scattered around her, looking peaceful and trusting in Tyler's space. I thought she was beautiful. I thought she looked like she belonged there with you. And I thought I was an idiot for noticing her at all. But you did notice her. I couldn't help it. Every time you mentioned her name, every time I saw her at family events, I found myself paying attention in ways I shouldn't have been. Tyler nodded slowly. I wondered about that. You always got this look on your face when I talked about her. What kind of look? Like you were trying not to be too interested but failing. Like you wanted to ask more questions but didn't think you should. You noticed that? I notice more than people give me credit for. I just don't always act on what I notice. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both processing the implications of Tyler's observation. If Tyler had seen Logan's interest in Amara from the beginning, then maybe the situation wasn't as simple as Logan accidentally stealing his brother's potential girlfriend. Tyler, I need to know if you can forgive us for not being completely honest about how this started. There's nothing to forgive, Logan. You fell in love with someone who was available to be fallen in love with. The only mistake you made was thinking you needed to protect me from the truth. So you're okay with this? Really okay? Tyler turned to face his brother fully. Logan, I've never seen you like this with anyone. You light up when you talk about Amara. You smile more, you laugh more, you're more. And Amara is the same way with you. She's more confident, more herself, more everything. She is pretty amazing. She's perfect for you. And honestly, I think you're perfect for her too. You balance each other out in ways that Tyler and Amara never would have. What do you mean? I mean that Amara needs someone who challenges her and pushes her to be her best self. I would have been content to let her be whatever she wanted to be. You make her want to be more. And you need someone who sees past your serious exterior to the person you really are. I've watched Amara do that for you in ways no one else ever has. Logan felt a weight lift from his chest. Tyler's acceptance meant more to him than he'd realized. Does this mean you'll talk to Amara? She's devastated about your fight today. I'll talk to her. But first, I need you to promise me something. What? Promise me that you'll stop feeling guilty about this. Stop second-guessing whether you deserve her or whether she really chose you. You found each other, Logan. Maybe not in the most conventional way, but you found each other. Don't let guilt ruin something that's clearly meant to be. How do you know it's meant to be? Tyler smiled for the first time since Logan had arrived. Because I've never seen two people fight so hard to be together while simultaneously trying to protect everyone else's feelings. That's not convenience or rebound or whatever you're worried about. That's love. I do love her, Tyler. More than I thought possible. I know. And she loves you too. Anyone can see it. Thank you. For understanding, for being okay with this, for being your brother? Logan, we're family. We want each other to be happy. And if Amara makes you happy, then I'm happy. They hugged then, the kind of brief, backslapping hug that had been their way of showing affection since they were kids. But Logan felt the sincerity behind it, the relief of knowing that his relationship with Amara wouldn't cost him his relationship with his brother. Now, Tyler said, let's go find Amara and put her out of her misery. She's probably convinced she's ruined everything. How do you know? Because that's what Amara does. She takes responsibility for everything, even things that aren't her fault. They found Amara at Logan's apartment, pacing around the living room with her phone in her hand. She looked up when they walked in together, and Logan could see her searching their faces for clues about how their conversation had gone. Before anyone says anything, Amara began, I need to apologize. Tyler, I should have been honest with you from the beginning. I should have told you about the letter, about my confusion over my feelings, about everything. You deserved better from your best friend. Tyler crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. You have nothing to apologize for, Amara. Nothing. But I hurt you today. I saw it in your face. You surprised me today. There's a difference. Tyler pulled back to look at her. I was hurt that you and Logan felt like you couldn't trust me with the truth, not that you fell in love with each other. You're really okay with this? I'm more than okay with it. I'm happy for both of you. Amara looked between Tyler and Logan, hardly daring to believe that the crisis she'd been dreading had resolved itself so easily. What changed? She asked Tyler. Logan told me the whole story. About how you two really met, about how your feelings evolved, about how you realized what you thought you felt for me wasn't actually romantic love. And you believe that? Tyler smiled. Amara, I've watched you with both of us. The way you look at Logan, the way you talk about him, the way you are when you're with him, that's not how you ever were with me. What you and I have is friendship. What you and Logan have is something completely different. It is different, Amara agreed. Everything about it is different. Good different. The best different. Logan came up behind Amara and wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. She leaned into him automatically, and Tyler could see exactly what he'd been talking about. The way they fit together, the way they complemented each other, the way they made each other better. So what happens now? Amara asked. Now we stop keeping secrets, Logan said. Now we trust that the people who love us will want us to be happy. Now I get to be the best man at your wedding, Tyler added with a grin. Wedding? Amara's voice came out as a squeak. Eventually, Logan said, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. When we're ready. When you're ready for what? Tyler asked. Logan looked down at Amara, who was watching him with wide eyes and a small smile. When we're ready to make this official in every way that matters. I think I'm ready now, Amara said quietly. Are you? I'm ready for whatever comes next with you, Logan Reed. Good, Tyler said, clapping his hands together. Because Sarah and I have an announcement too. Both Logan and Amara turned to look at him. We're moving in together after graduation. And we wanted to ask if you two would help us apartment hunt. Apparently, Logan knows about real estate, and Amara has excellent taste in everything. We'd love to help, Amara said. Perfect. This is going to be great, the four of us, all coupled up, all happy, all honest with each other finally. As Tyler talked about his plans with Sarah, Amara felt the last of her anxiety fade away. Tyler was okay. Their friendship was intact. Her relationship with Logan was out in the open and stronger than ever. But most importantly, she was exactly where she belonged, in Logan's arms, surrounded by people who loved and supported them both. The letter that had started this whole journey seemed like a lifetime ago now. She'd written it thinking she knew what love was supposed to feel like, but she'd been wrong about almost everything. Real love, she'd discovered, was messier and more complicated and infinitely more wonderful than anything she could have imagined. And sometimes, it came to you in the most unexpected way possible. 3 months later, the Reed family was gathered around Patricia and Robert's dining room table for what had become a monthly tradition. Sunday dinner with all the new additions to the family. Sarah had been officially welcomed into the fold, and Amara had transitioned from Tyler's friend to Logan's girlfriend to simply family in the span of a few months. Pass the potatoes, please, Sarah said, reaching across the table with the easy familiarity of someone who belonged. Amara handed over the bowl, marveling at how natural everything felt now. The awkwardness and secrecy that had marked the early days of her relationship with Logan seemed like ancient history. Both sets of relationships, Tyler and Sarah, Logan and Amara, had settled into comfortable rhythms that complemented rather than competed with each other. So, Patricia said, looking around the table with obvious satisfaction, I have an announcement to make. Everyone turned their attention to her, noting the barely contained excitement in her expression. Your father and I have decided to take that European vacation we've been talking about for 20 years. We're going to be gone for 6 weeks this summer. That's wonderful, Mom, Logan said. You two deserve a proper vacation. 6 weeks? Tyler asked. That's a long time. What about the house? What about Dad's business? Robert waved off Tyler's concerns. The business will be fine. I have good people working for me. And as for the house, we were hoping our sons and their lovely girlfriends might take turns checking on things. Of course, Amara said immediately. We'd be happy to help. Actually, Patricia continued, we were hoping you might consider more than just checking on things. We were thinking maybe you could stay here. Both couples. Make it a trial run for future arrangements. The suggestion hung in the air, loaded with implications that made both couples look at each other with varying degrees of surprise and interest. Future arrangements? Sarah asked. Well, Patricia said carefully, Logan and Amara have been together for 6 months now, and you two have been inseparable since the day you met. It seems like things are getting serious for both couples. They are serious, Tyler said, reaching for Sarah's hand. Actually, we have some news too. Logan and Amara exchanged a look, both sensing that Tyler was about to make an announcement of his own. Sarah and I are engaged, Tyler said, beaming. I proposed last night. The table erupted in congratulations and excited chatter as Sarah showed off her ring and Tyler explained how he proposed during their evening walk around campus. Amara felt genuinely thrilled for her best friend, while also noting the way Logan was watching the celebration with a thoughtful expression. This is wonderful news, Patricia said, wiping away happy tears. Another wedding to plan. We're thinking small, Sarah said. Maybe just family and close friends. Nothing too elaborate. When were you thinking? Robert asked. Next spring, Tyler said. After Sarah finishes her master's program and gets settled in her new job. Perfect, Patricia said. That gives us plenty of time to plan. And it gives Logan and Amara time to figure out their own timeline. Amara felt her cheeks flush as all eyes turned to her and Logan. They'd talked about marriage in general terms, but they'd never discussed specific timelines or made concrete plans. Mom, Logan said with gentle warning in his voice, let's focus on Tyler and Sarah's news. I'm just saying, Patricia continued, undeterred, you're not getting any younger and Amara is clearly perfect for you. Don't wait too long to make it official. Patricia, Robert said gently, leave the boy alone. They'll figure things out in their own time. I know. I just want all my children to be as happy as possible. All your children? Amara asked, touched by the inclusion. Of course, dear. You and Sarah are family now, whether there are rings involved or not. After dinner, the two couples helped clean up before settling in the living room for coffee and more conversation. Tyler and Sarah were full of wedding plans and excitement about their future together, while Logan seemed quieter than usual, processing something Amara couldn't quite identify. Earth to Logan, Tyler said, waving a hand in front of his brother's face. You've been somewhere else for the past hour. Sorry, Logan said, refocusing on the conversation. Just thinking about some things. What kind of things? Amara asked. Logan looked at her for a long moment before answering. I was thinking about what Mom said. About timelines and making things official. And I realized that I don't want to wait for some arbitrary timeline to pass before taking the next step with you. Amara's heart began beating faster. What kind of next step? Instead of answering directly, Logan stood up and walked over to the mantelpiece, where he retrieved a small box that had been hidden behind a family photo. When he turned back to face her, Amara saw that his hands were shaking slightly. Logan, she whispered, understanding immediately what was happening. I had a whole plan, Logan said, coming back to kneel in front of her chair. I was going to take you to the art museum where we had our first real conversation. I was going to wait until we'd been together for exactly a year. I was going to write a speech and memorize it and do everything perfectly. But watching Tyler and Sarah tonight, seeing how happy they are, I realized that I don't want to wait for the perfect moment. I want to create our own perfect moment, right here, right now, with our family around us. Amara was vaguely aware of Tyler and Sarah moving closer, of Patricia gasping from the doorway where she and Robert had appeared, drawn by the significance of the moment. But her focus was entirely on Logan and the small velvet box in his hands. Amara Johnson, Logan said, his voice steady despite his obvious nerves, 6 months ago, you wrote a letter that changed both of our lives. You were brave enough to put your heart on paper, brave enough to take a chance on love, even when it was scary and uncertain. Tears were already streaming down Amara's face. That letter was meant for someone else, but somehow it found its way to me instead. And I think that happened for a reason because you and I were meant to be together. We challenge each other, we support each other, we make each other better than we could ever be alone. Logan opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring, exactly the kind of understated beauty that Amara would have chosen for herself. I love you, Amara. I love your ambition and your kindness and your terrible taste in pizza toppings. I love the way you hum when you read and the way you take care of everyone around you and the way you make me want to be the best version of myself. Logan, Amara managed to say through her tears. Will you marry me? Will you take a chance on a future together, even though we don't know exactly what it will look like? Will you let me love you for the rest of our lives? Yes, Amara said without hesitation. Yes, absolutely yes. Logan slipped the ring onto her finger with hands that were still shaking, and then she was in his arms, kissing him while their family cheered around them. The ring fit perfectly, and Amara realized that Logan must have asked Tyler for her ring size, which meant this proposal had been planned for longer than he'd let on. You're sneaky, she whispered against his lips. I had help, Logan admitted, glancing over at Tyler, who was grinning broadly. Tyler knew. Tyler helped me pick out the ring. And Sarah helped me figure out what style you'd like. Amara looked around at the family that had gathered to witness this moment. Patricia crying happy tears, Robert beaming with pride, Tyler and Sarah holding hands and looking thrilled for their friends. This was so much better than any elaborate proposal Logan might have planned. This was real and spontaneous and surrounded by love. I can't believe this is happening, Amara said, looking down at her ring. Believe it, Logan said. We're engaged. We're getting married. We're going to spend the rest of our lives driving each other crazy in the best possible way. 2 weddings. Patricia exclaimed. 2 weddings to plan. Maybe we should have a double wedding, Sarah suggested jokingly. Absolutely not, Amara and Tyler said simultaneously, making everyone laugh. Separate weddings, Logan agreed. But maybe we can coordinate timelines so we're not stepping on each other's celebrations. As the evening wound down with more champagne and excited planning conversations, Amara found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this moment. 6 months ago, she'd been convinced she was in love with Tyler, terrified of taking any risks, and completely unaware that her perfect match was right in front of her. The misdelivered letter that had seemed like such a disaster at the time had turned out to be the best mistake of her life. It had forced her to confront her real feelings, pushed her out of her comfort zone, and led her directly to the love of her life. What are you thinking about? Logan asked as they drove home to his apartment. Their apartment now, since she'd officially moved in the month before. I'm thinking about fate, Amara said. About how sometimes the universe knows what we need before we do. You think the universe arranged for your letter to be misdelivered? I think the universe knew that Tyler and I were never supposed to be together romantically. I think it knew that you and I needed to find each other. And I think it used my terrible handwriting and Mrs. Chen's mail sorting skills to make sure we did. Logan laughed. Your handwriting isn't that terrible. It's pretty terrible. But it worked out, didn't it? It worked out perfectly. As they settled into bed that night, Amara's new ring catching the light from the bedside lamp, she felt overwhelmed by gratitude for the twists and turns that had brought them together. She'd started this journey thinking she knew what love was supposed to look like, and she'd discovered that real love was so much more complex and wonderful than she'd ever imagined. Logan, she said into the darkness. I love you. More than I ever loved anyone, more than I thought it was possible to love someone. I love you too, future Mrs. Reed. Mrs. Reed, Amara repeated softly, testing out how the name sounded. I like the sound of that. Get used to it, Logan said, pulling her closer. You're stuck with me now. Good, Amara said, settling against his chest. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. As they drifted off to sleep, both of them felt the deep contentment that comes from being exactly where you belong, with exactly the right person at exactly the right time in your life. 6 months later, on a perfect spring morning, Amara stood in front of the mirror in the bridal suite at the Riverside Gardens venue, hardly recognizing herself in her wedding dress. The gown was simple but elegant, exactly what she'd dreamed of, flowing ivory silk with delicate lace details and a train that pooled gracefully around her feet. You look absolutely stunning, Sarah said, adjusting Amara's veil for the 3rd time. As Amara's maid of honor, Sarah had been instrumental in helping plan the wedding, and her attention to detail rivaled any professional wedding coordinator. I can't believe this is really happening, Amara said, pressing her hands to her stomach to calm the butterflies. Cold feet? Asked Keisha, Amara's former roommate and bridesmaid, who was touching up her own lipstick in the mirror. Not cold feet, Amara said immediately. Just overwhelmed. In the best way. That's normal, Patricia said from her seat by the window, where she was watching the guests arrive. I felt the same way on my wedding day. Like I couldn't quite believe something so wonderful was really happening to me. Patricia had insisted on helping Amara get ready, filling the maternal role that Amara's own mother couldn't fulfill from across the country. It was one of many ways the Reed family had embraced Amara completely, making her feel loved and supported in ways she'd never experienced before. How many people are out there? Amara asked, trying to peer out the window without messing up her makeup. About 100, Patricia said. Perfect size, big enough to feel festive, small enough to feel intimate. Amara and Logan had opted for a spring wedding at a botanical garden venue, surrounded by blooming flowers and natural beauty. It was romantic without being overly elaborate, elegant without being stuffy, exactly the kind of celebration that reflected who they were as a couple. A knock on the door interrupted their preparations. 5 minutes, ladies, called the wedding coordinator. 5 minutes, Amara repeated, feeling her heart rate spike. Breathe, Sarah instructed, demonstrating the breathing technique they'd practiced. You've got this. Do I look okay? Amara asked for the 10th time, smoothing down her dress. You look like a woman who's about to marry the love of her life, Keisha said warmly. You look perfect. As they made their final preparations to leave the bridal suite, Amara felt a moment of pure clarity. All the nerves and excitement crystallized into one simple truth. She was about to marry Logan Reed, the man who had become her best friend, her greatest supporter, and her deepest love, all rolled into one. The journey to this moment hadn't been conventional, but it had been theirs. And that made it perfect. Meanwhile, in the groom's area on the other side of the venue, Logan was adjusting his tie for the 5th time while Tyler watched with amusement. "You know the tie looks fine, right?" Tyler said. "It's looked fine for the past 10 minutes. I want everything to be perfect," Logan said, checking his reflection in the mirror again. "Everything is perfect. The weather is beautiful, the venue looks amazing, and in about 5 minutes you're going to see Amara walking down the aisle toward you. What more could you want?" Logan stopped fiddling with his tie and turned to face his brother. "I can't believe this is happening." "What, getting married? You proposed 6 months ago, Logan. We've had plenty of time to get used to the idea. Not just getting married. All of it. Finding someone who fits into my life so perfectly, being this happy, having everything work out exactly the way it's supposed to." Tyler clapped his brother on the shoulder. "You deserve this, Logan. You both do. Do you ever think about how different things would have been if that letter had actually been delivered to you?" Tyler considered the question seriously. "Sometimes. But Logan, I think things worked out exactly the way they were supposed to. Amara and I would have been good friends who tried to be something more and probably would have ruined our friendship in the process. You and Amara, you're meant to be together. Anyone can see it. I love her so much it scares me sometimes. That's what real love feels like. Scary and wonderful and completely worth it." Robert appeared in the doorway, looking distinguished in his role as father of the groom. "It's time, boys." Logan took a deep breath, straightening his shoulders. "I'm ready. Are you?" Tyler asked with a grin. "I've been ready since the day I accidentally read her letter." The ceremony took place in the garden's main pavilion, surrounded by climbing roses and twinkling lights. As the guests took their seats, Logan stood at the altar with Tyler beside him as his best man, trying to calm his racing heart. The music began and Logan watched as the bridal party made their way down the aisle. Sarah looked radiant in her pale blue dress, followed by Keisha in a complimentary shade. Both women were beaming as they took their places, clearly thrilled to be witnessing this moment. Then the wedding march began, and Logan's breath caught in his throat as Amara appeared at the back of the aisle. She was absolutely breathtaking. The dress emphasized her natural elegance, and the veil framed her face perfectly, but it was her smile that took Logan's breath away. She was looking directly at him with such love and joy that he felt his eyes well up with tears. Amara was being escorted by her father, who had flown in from California for the wedding. Her parents' divorce when she was young had made family relationships complicated, but Logan had worked hard to include both of her parents in the wedding planning, understanding how important it was to Amara to have their support. As they made their way down the aisle, Logan couldn't take his eyes off his bride. Every step brought her closer to him, closer to the moment when they would officially become husband and wife. The months of planning, the stress of coordinating details, the excitement of preparing for their future together, it all culminated in this perfect moment. When Amara reached the altar, her father kissed her cheek and placed her hand in Logan's with a smile. "Take care of her," he said quietly. "Always," Logan replied. As Amara turned to face him fully, Logan felt the rest of the world fade away. There were 100 people watching them, but all he could see was the woman he loved looking at him like he was her whole world. "Hi," Amara whispered, her eyes sparkling with happy tears. "Hi yourself," Logan whispered back. "You look incredible." "So do you." The officiant, a friend of Logan's who had gotten ordained specifically for this ceremony, began the service with words about love, commitment, and the journey that had brought Logan and Amara together. Logan and Amara's love story began in an unexpected way, he said, with a letter that found its way to the right person at exactly the right time. Today we're here to celebrate not just their commitment to each other, but the beautiful reminder that love often comes to us when we least expect it, in ways we never planned for. When it came time for the vows, Logan went first, pulling out a folded piece of paper with slightly shaking hands. "Amara," he began, his voice strong and clear, "6 months ago you wrote a letter that changed my life. Not because it was meant for me but because reading it showed me what real love looks like. It looks like courage in the face of uncertainty. It looks like honesty even when it's scary. It looks like putting someone else's happiness above your own." Amara was already crying, but Logan could see they were happy tears. "You taught me that love isn't about finding someone who fits into your existing life perfectly. It's about finding someone who makes you want to build a completely new life together. You make me braver, kinder, and more hopeful than I ever thought possible." Logan paused, looking directly into Amara's eyes. "I promise to love you not just on the easy days but especially on the difficult ones. I promise to support your dreams even when they scare me. I promise to never stop being grateful that a misdelivered letter brought us together. And I promise to spend the rest of my life proving that you chose the right read brother." The last line got a laugh from the guests and a watery smile from Amara, who was dabbing at her eyes with her bouquet. When it was Amara's turn, she took a deep breath before beginning. Logan, when I wrote that letter, I thought I knew what love was supposed to feel like. I thought it was supposed to be comfortable and safe and predictable. I was so wrong. She paused, gathering her composure. Real love, I learned, is challenging and exciting and sometimes terrifying. It's finding someone who sees all of your flaws and chooses to love you anyway. It's having someone believe in your dreams more than you believe in them yourself. It's discovering that the person you thought you wanted was actually just practice for finding the person you were meant to be with. Logan felt his own eyes filling with tears as Amara continued. You make me want to be the best version of myself, not because you expect it, but because your love makes me feel like I can accomplish anything. You've shown me what it means to be truly seen, truly known, and truly cherished. Amara's voice grew stronger as she spoke. I promise to love you with the same honesty and courage that brought us together. I promise to support your ambitions and celebrate your successes. I promise to never take for granted the miracle of finding someone who feels like home. And I promise that no matter what challenges we face, we'll face them together as partners, as best friends, and as soulmates. By the time they exchanged rings, there wasn't a dry eye in the venue. Even Tyler, who had teased them mercilessly about being sappy, was wiping away tears as he watched his brother and best friend promise their lives to each other. By the power vested in me by the state and by the love that surrounds us today, the officiant said, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Logan, you may kiss your bride. Logan cupped Amara's face gently, thumbs brushing away her tears, and kissed her with all the love and promise and joy he felt in that moment. The guests erupted in cheers and applause, but Logan and Amara were lost in their own world, finally married, finally official, finally Mr. and Mrs. Reed. As they walked back down the aisle together, hands clasped tightly, Amara felt like she was floating. The faces of their loved ones blurred past in a stream of smiles and happy tears, but all she could focus on was the man beside her, her husband, and the incredible future stretching out before them. The reception was everything they'd hoped for, elegant but relaxed, festive but intimate. Logan and Amara had their first dance to At Last by Etta James, swaying together on the dance floor while their friends and family watched with obvious affection. How does it feel to be Mrs. Reed? Logan asked as they danced. Perfect, Amara said without hesitation. Everything about this feels perfect. Even the part where Tyler cried during your vows? Especially that part. I love that your whole family loves me enough to cry at our wedding. Our family, Logan corrected. They're your family now too. As the evening continued with toasts and laughter and dancing, Amara found herself thinking about the letter that had started it all. The letter she'd agonized over, rewritten dozens of times, and finally delivered to the wrong person at exactly the right moment. That letter was framed now, hanging in their bedroom as a reminder of how their love story began. Not with a perfect plan or a logical progression, but with a mistake that turned out to be destiny. During a quiet moment between dances, Tyler approached them with Sarah at his side. I have something for you, he said, pulling an envelope from his jacket pocket. What is it? Amara asked. Read it later, Tyler said with a mysterious smile. When you're ready for the next chapter. After the reception, after the last guest had left and the cleanup was done, Logan and Amara finally made it back to their hotel suite. Amara's feet hurt from dancing all night, but she'd never been happier. I can't believe we're married, she said, collapsing onto the bed still in her wedding dress. I can't believe you're stuck with me forever, Logan replied, loosening his tie. Best decision I ever made. Logan sat down beside her and pulled out the envelope Tyler had given them. Should we see what my brother's surprise is? Amara nodded, curious about Tyler's mysterious gift. Logan opened the envelope and pulled out a single sheet of paper. As he unfolded it, Amara gasped in recognition. It was a copy of her original letter to Tyler, the one that had started everything. But at the bottom, in Tyler's handwriting, was a note. Dear Logan and Amara, I found this letter in my apartment months ago, but I never told you because I realized it had already served its purpose. It brought you two together. Consider this my wedding gift. The reminder that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Thank you for letting me be part of your love story. Love, Tyler. Amara felt tears spring to her eyes again. He kept it all this time. He knew, Logan said, reading the letter again. He knew that this was how we were supposed to find each other. Do you think he's right? That everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to? Logan looked at his wife. Still beautiful in her wedding dress, her hair slightly messed from dancing, her makeup smudged from happy tears. She was perfect and she was his, and their love story was uniquely theirs. "I think," Logan said, pulling her close, "that some letters are meant to be misdelivered. And some people are meant to be together even when they don't know it yet. Especially then." As they settled into bed that night, officially Mr. and Mrs. Reed, Amara reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. She'd started with a letter to the wrong person and ended up with the love of her life. She'd been afraid of taking risks and had discovered that the biggest risk, opening her heart to unexpected love, had given her the greatest reward. Logan was already asleep beside her, one arm wrapped protectively around her waist, when Amara whispered into the darkness, "Thank you for reading my letter." Even in sleep, Logan's arm tightened around her, as if he'd heard her gratitude and was responding with his own. 6 months later, Amara would write another letter. This time addressed correctly, this time to her husband, telling him about the positive pregnancy test hidden in her desk drawer. But that's another story entirely. For now, she was content to fall asleep in the arms of the man who had accidentally received her love letter and intentionally stolen her heart. Sometimes the best accidents turned out to be the most perfect destiny. And they all lived happily ever after.